Alright, hello everybody. Welcome back. I'm going to be playing some rapid chess. I think I've done blitz, I've done classical, I have not done rapid. And my rating will still be fairly low because of that. I think it will just be the provisional 1500. I've recorded some videos in between before and now, but I didn't like the quality, so those are probably not that I didn't play well, but the quality of commentary was quite poor. Okay, so I think this is a bit of a strange move because it blocks the c pawn and these d pawn openings. Playing out here, when we see the pin, it's pretty obvious that he wants to make some sort of quick queenside castling. And the question becomes, should I now target this pawn? Should I keep developing as normal? I don't think there's anything wrong with developing normally. If he wants to be extravagant and castle queenside and then do some sort of preparation here, I think that will take a lot of time. And if I'm just playing simple normal moves, okay, already a very interesting decision. Well, I don't want to commit to the g pawn taking just yet. If he comes after my pawn, I can very easily bring my queen back. And probably my next move will be c4. So doing what he didn't, which is put the pawn forward before I bring the knight out. So a very blatant attempt to hit my square there. Not the only way to defend, but I'd rather my knight come to c. I don't want to defend by maybe going knight a3 to cover the square. My queen wasn't very well placed here regardless. I'm expecting to see some sort of defense of the pawn in the center. Okay, maybe he doesn't have to. I don't really want to. I'm not like so keen on taking because I'll lose time. Maybe the other knight comes and I have to move my bishop. Then again, is that a big problem? At this point, I have the bishop pair. I'm going to have a long-term advantage here. I'm not going to think about it too much. I'm just going to, well, there we go. So takes there. I guess there's this, but that's a bit provocative. In fact, it just fails to bishop to b5, which would, I'll make that even a red arrow. So you can see black's lost a lot of time here. Like when you're this far ahead in development, and I wouldn't say that I'm that far ahead developmentally. We have a similar, if we count the queen here, similar number of pieces, but I've got complete center control here. If I had a knight that could jump into one of these squares, I might consider what would happen on this square. For instance, we also have queen b3 here, and then attacking this. That could be very good. If e6 takes rook b8, I take c7 as well, even though he gets this pawn. So I go up a pawn, and then I can castle. And the other thing I have to calculate is queen b3, if he just attacks me like this, I just take. So that's why you look for these things. When you feel like you're ahead in development by some margin, even if it's just a small margin, it's worth looking for weaknesses in the opponent's position that you can exploit. Being ahead in development means that you can pursue more options and your opponent has less defensive capabilities, so it kind of compounds on each other. If you're significantly ahead in development, then there's a strong chance that you can overwhelm your opponent in some way, very much like that double attack. So I'm expecting him to take here. I will castle. I don't want to have any problems here. Looks like he could be skewering my pieces, but I can always drop my rook behind, defend everything. What's the word? latently. I think that's the word I was looking for. Latent defense, indirect defense. And this is a reasonable move. Black should also be trying to castle very quickly. The question is, what am I going to do about it? It'd be very easy just to defend the knight. It'd be very easy to counterattack. Maybe tickle the rook a bit. I think the rook is starting to run low on squares. So I'm curious about what happens here. So here. So what I want to do here is get this bishop to move and then attack the rook again. But I think it's even better. Yeah, and I also want to go here. But when I go here to attack the knight, he'll counterattack my bishop. So I want to prepare my bishop's excursion to this square by first kicking his bishop. Bishop goes away, probably to e7. Then I attack the knight. King comes up. I attack the rook. Rook moves somewhere, and then my rook comes to the c-file, and I'm ganging up on this knight. That's the train of thought here. I have two things I wanted to do, which was kick his bishop away so my bishop could come back and start to entrap the rook, and the other was to attack on c6. And I chose a move order that basically it stayed the most flexible. It just works out that way, but you could also think about it in terms of maintaining flexibility in the position. So it's interesting because maybe his best move is to play king to d7 as a way of counterattacking, so that when his bishop moves, I don't have here. If he were to play king d7, what would I play? Well, the first thing that comes to mind is just to take. Okay, so he can also do this. I always hate it when an opponent plays a move I haven't considered, even if it's not like a good move. I don't know if this isn't really a problem. But it just annoys me that there was something I didn't consider. It could have been bad. It's the possibility of what could have happened. So if I take, knight takes, I can give a check. My knight can come in. That's decent. I can also now go bishop here. No castling for you. Okay, no castling. King comes up because I basically coerced him to. Bishop here. And my bishop gets harassed. That's taking a lot of time. I mean, speaking of taking a lot of time, I'm also taking a lot of thinking time here. So, option number 3. What's behind door number 3? I could just bring my bishop away entirely, but I don't like that. So we're going to keep his king exposed. I spent a lot of time there because I had it. Truthfully, this was obviously my first instinct, and I didn't see anything better, but it seemed like a critical moment to take a few seconds. If I start to move my rooks off the file here, that's a very odd move. What does he do if I gang up on that? If I have to be careful. Even I expect this game is now going to be over quite quickly because of this blunder, but I wasn't fully ready to get my rooks off the back rank. Even though maybe I had a bishop defense to come back, you always have to be mindful of leaving yourself exposed to back rank problems. And I was already starting to imagine positions where my rooks were coming in, harassing the king, getting on the seventh rank. So he castles. What's best here? I mean, this obviously comes with tempo. So So let's go here. I just have to be careful about, yeah, I don't want his rook to come in. So let's go here. So again, I don't really have a back rank problem, but I don't want to lose my mind and do something unforgivable to my position. So obviously giving himself some Luft. However, I think missing this, I'm going to be gaining some pawns here. Or just at least one pawn. And if only this square were protected, I could make a nice checkmating net. So let's come back. And I would like that to happen, so after the king returns, I think I just play h4, h5 and set up the net. I don't see a way for him to disturb my setup here. So let's play h4. Now if check, I can just step up. I don't have to bother with this. And yeah, I think that's the plan. I mean, I'm just setting up some cheapos almost, but it's not really a cheapo. It's a powerful idea. Like if my pawn were already on h5, and then it were black's move, this would be a huge problem. To have my knight get cemented into this square, and to stop maybe some of these things from happening. So maybe h5 is in order. So, and because it was also multi-purpose, giving me some Luft, I think h4 is a very decent move. And that was the sound of someone pinging me on Facebook. I should disable those sounds. Where should I go? Man, I'm a popular person. All these messages from the same person. All right, I'm going to let's try to soften the structure here. Wow, he actually took. Okay. Let's give check. Let's go here. Now the idea is to play rook to c7. If he attacks my bishop, I just play pawn to a4. Actually, now that I think about it, I can disable I can mute things without muting my voice. That's the biggest blunder right there. Okay, so interesting. If I go here, knight here does a, not this pawn, does a multi-purpose job. So there's some defense being done by my opponent. I'll do it anyways. I'm expecting knight d6. And I'll just protect it. And then I'll want to go here. Make the knight leave. Okay, well, knight takes voluntarily. Now we have all of these pawns falling. So let's give check. Well, now you have to start looking for checkmate. So check. Check. Mate. I think this is checkmate. I mean, of course, there was knight f3 to win the rook, but a nice checkmate. Well, okay, if the king had gone here, it was not checkmate, but this is checkmate. All right, so that was game one. Let's look at it really quickly. This is quite common to see in these lower tier blitz games. And you can see in the Masters database, not a very popular move compared to like, it's like fifth most common, and it's in these tier of moves that aren't never played, but yeah, compared to like the main moves, 1 in 40 of the popularity. But in these lower rating brackets, you see it more than 1 in 40 times. You see it like once every few games. So it says something about. So yeah, if we go to the actually maybe we can even show that here. Okay, so already in the Lichess database, you can see it's much more popular. Coming in at about 100,000 games. Obviously, the scales have changed here, but it's fourth most popular. And if we change, oops, I have to keep one of them highlighted. If we change the brackets here, it keeps shooting up in popularity. So it's one of those openings that I feel like people play because they're taught to bring their pieces out and control the center, which leads to more efficient moves in e4 style openings. But if maybe a player has just like never seen d4, d5 openings, they don't maybe understand the value of having this pawn lever, where you would ideally want to do something very similar in the, and this is the King's Gambit version. The only problem here is that how weak it makes your king. You don't have that problem on the queen side. You don't care if the line to your queen gets opened because no one's going to put something where the queen can take it. So it's a really big difference to lever against this pawn in this way or in this way. And c4 is even the most popular move. I just was playing knight f3 because you can. It's very likely to transpose. You cut out a couple openings. You don't have to worry about this counter gambit in the center, like d4, d5. This is the so-called Albin's counter gambit. But we're getting really off topic here. You can see it's named right here, Albin counter gambit. So knight c6, bishop f4 is probably the most common, or c4. c4, this is actually a more respectable move once white has spent time with c4. You can play quite combatively against the center. But if I don't commit c4, I feel like, I mean, if you know what you're doing with playing c4, it's still quite good. But I prefer to play in a non-theoretical way so that I just don't have to bother to learn it. It's a very rare system, the Chigorin defense. As you can see, it's named. And it's just, I've just never found the time to really learn it. So, and it doesn't matter. You can play bishop f4 and get a good game. So yeah, taking voluntarily, definitely a very odd move. Yeah, not so popular. Scores the highest pretty much for white because, and it should be that way. There's no real reason to do it. I was not, even intending to get my queen off the pin anytime soon. There's a strong chance that I would have prompted him to take me, question the bishop with h3. And by taking voluntarily, he gives me this exchange, which is already a pretty good exchange for white. He spends 2 moves to take a piece that is slightly inferior to his bishop. So it's like, yes, please, and thank you. I like c4 now. before knight c3. I wasn't ever worried. I mentioned this in the game. I wasn't ever worried about this. And I just felt like it would prompt something to happen in the center first. I would be maybe a little remiss if I were to give back the bishop that I just got this bishop pair. I want to use that later. And otherwise, I don't really want to play to e2. Blocks my queen from relocating, and it's kind of a passive place. So the other option, of course, would have been to play bishop to b5. That would have been a good move as well. I would have been more enticed to play to b5 if I still had my knight here to gang up on the pinned piece, but that's why I played c4. I think c4 is a fine move. You can see that c3 is played. The reason for that is to stop knight b4, not because we're worried about this, but because we're worried about the bishop being harassed. So we play c3 and then here, but I just thought c4 was more active, so I like my decision. Knight b4. Yeah, kind of provocative. He's spending more time bringing pieces out when already being a little behind in development. I have more central control. I technically, if you count the queen, an equal number of pieces out, even though I bring my queen back. This knight's going to have to go backwards. Yeah, taking voluntarily. Again, similar to this, voluntary capture wasn't necessary. Helps me develop my bishop. And then, all this together, yeah, of course there's going to be something. Queen b3. You lose a pawn. Man, this computer analysis is taking forever. Let me see if refreshing the page fixes that. Nope, it just seems like the servers are either overloaded or we have some sort of bug. That's all right. I kind of understand what happened here. If I made a mistake, it was something I missed, probably. I don't think I missed anything for him, but I may have missed maybe the best way to execute. But yeah, after this is, it could have been that bishop takes was better. I like knight takes. Yeah, and I don't think this is a bad move. I mean, yeah, at this point, it's at your leisure. So hopefully you learned something. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next game.